What's happening, guys? It is the 31st of July, last day of the month, closed 102 transactions, and that was with all the mess that's gone on, the COVID situation, Ellen out for 2 weeks. Ellen's one of the key people in my team. I've had other members, Jerea is down. I've had Michaela out. We've had as many as 5 people out at once over the last little while. It's been crazy. It's been really wild, but we still able to get 102 transactions done. I just appreciate the trust, people allowing us to help you build your business. So today, bonds are still, they're holding in there. The Fed is saying that they are going to continue to keep purchasing mortgage-backed securities and treasuries, and they're not going to let rates climb. That's what they said. So this is basically, them keeping the market stable. Keep grabbing it while you can. I don't know how long they're going to do that. They said 2022, but for right now, real estate investment opportunity is huge. We've talked about inflation. We've talked about how that helps you. Talked about shadow stats. In fact, I'm going to share again. If you have not got onto shadowstats.com yet, you got to go there. You go into the alternate data. You have to sign up. It's really cheap. It's like $100 a year, and you can see all the inflation information they've given you. Let me go into the home here, but then you want to go into the alternate data here. You want to go down into the money supply. Money supply. That's pretty interesting stuff here. We start talking about what happened with the money supply. Just the alternate data gives you all these graphs: inflation, GDP, what the US dollar is doing, what unemployment's happening. Amazing graphs, stuff you definitely want to be able to access, understand, help you to kind of feel out where the markets are heading. So today, what I promised you, well, number one, also a really cool thing to know, Quit Jerking Off Initiative. We have our very first episode out. We're going to put that, you go back to your email, scroll down at the bottom. We have yet to actually be able to put a vanity name out there on YouTube because we don't have enough subscribers yet. So please go in there, subscribe, but watch that one. It's the first episode. Gives you a little bit of an understanding of who I have on there with me and why. So these are the guys that are part of the initiative that are, they're kind of like co-hosts, if you will, right? So it describes those 4 guys. We're going to show some stuff about the crew later, as far as the film crew and the audio crew. But for right now, that gives us the breakdown of the 3 guys that are with me. So go back to this email, scroll down to the bottom, the email that was sent out to you. Go to the episode 1, QJO Initiative, episode 1. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the income piece of it. So we talked a little bit before about the debt-to-income ratio. Now I want to talk about offsetting the debt as far as the new payment on the new loan. So many people ask me, well, how about qualifying for how many finance properties can I get? Well, what's the maximum I can qualify for? Well, it's an interesting thing to ask that question, because if you're buying cash flowing rentals, there's a pretty good chance that we can use the rents on the property to offset the expense. So what I mean by that, so what we've got here is, let's say you're buying a property, we've talked about a $100,000 property, putting 20% down, you got an $80,000 loan. Let's say you have a payment on that property of $600 a month between principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Well, if you're doing a 1% rent to value ratio, which is what I know everybody's targeting, somewhere close to that, let's say you find a 1% rent to value ratio, it's $1,000 a month income. Well, that gross rent, we can use 75% of that gross rent to offset the expense. So that's $750, right? So that's the usable income, because we have to factor 25 for maintenance and vacancy. So then we take your payment, the $600 a month, we subtract it from the $750, and there's a gap there, right? So since there's $150 available, we can eliminate the $600 on your debt schedule, so you don't show an expense. So literally your debt to income ratio stays the same. Now, that's for a newer investor that has a primary housing expense. That's important to know. You have a rent that you're paying for the place you live, or you have a mortgage on the place you live, or you have it free and clear and you're paying taxes and insurance. If you have a primary housing expense that you're responsible for, then you can use the rents on the properties you're buying to offset the expense, even if you haven't even bought it yet. Just being in contract on a property, I can get the appraiser to do a rental survey and tell us what he believes it will rent for. We can use what the appraiser says it will rent for as a way to offset that. Now, know that that's a more expensive appraisal. It's like an additional $100 to $150 for that survey, but you get 2 things out of it. 1, you get to know it's going to rent for what people are saying it will. And then 2, we can use that rent to offset the expense, even though it's not rented yet, because we know you're going to get a renter in there soon. Now, that's one thing. If you do not have a primary housing expense, you live with mom and dad, or you're living rent-free somewhere, just know that that will work against you. We now have to qualify with you with the payment of that new investment property until such time you have a history of investment properties on your taxes. So you have to understand that. Now, if you have of primary housing expense, and you've got a history of owning rentals on your taxes, now I get to use the income from the future property as continued income for you. So let's say you have a history of owning rentals. You're buying a property for $1,000, I mean 100,000 with $1,000 a month income, right? $600 a month payment. We can count 750 of that 1,000, 75% as usable income. We back the 600 out of the 750, so we're not hitting you with the 600 in debt. But now I can give you $150 in income. Now your debt to income ratio went down. So what that means is you get to continue to qualify for properties as long as you have the capital, the income and asset, or the assets for down payment and reserves. We talked about reserves. You should have the calculator. If you haven't, email us for the calculator or put a comment up on the channel here. Then you'll know what you need. We can use your 401k, your IRA, stock accounts, checking, savings, but we can only use up to 70%. If I remember correctly, I think it's 70% for those stock accounts, 401ks, IRAs. So know that. So that's a basic breakdown of today's little discussion. Again, we appreciate the trust. We appreciate you backing us up and allowing us to be part of your business. If there's other questions, any things you want me to cover, please shoot that in the comments. I'm going to continue on this path with more information. Coming up soon, I'm going to have the head of our secondary marketing department talk about how they price rates out, how they trade all that, and how they do their jobs. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to come in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned.